Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
All right, hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for some more PSGL. Today we arrive at Mexico for the 10th round of this season 34. I'm your race commentator, More Games, and we're into the final few stages of the season, as you can see on the standings. And tonight here in Mexico, our championship leader NLR Urpek leading by 44 points over NLR Keke, with the top 3 drivers in this division being NLR drivers, which is absolutely fantastic for NLR. And Urpek leading so far with 99 points, 3 race wins, and a grand total of 7 podiums in 9 races, and technically 8 races because he was not here for round 3. So Urpek has had a fantastic run of things here in the PSGL PlayStation F2 division, and if he can finish in the top 7 positions tonight, he will be taking home the PSGL PlayStation F2 Championship title in this division. So there's every chance that this title battle could end tonight. I also believe Williams have probably won the championship already. I don't keep too up to date with the constructor standings because it's all about the driver standings, and if Urpek finishes in that top 7 tonight, he will be the champion. So that's definitely something to look out for, and it would definitely be one of NLR's best finishes in a PSGL championship. They've definitely been on the up on this F1 23 game. They've got a lot of competitive drivers, and in fact Gabriel, as you can see there in P2, left this division. That's because he's moved over onto the PC side of things, and that's obviously a higher level of competition. So NLR really proving themselves as a top team on the PlayStation platform. But let's jump in to the qualifying session now. As you can see, all the drivers in the pit lane currently. although they are now making their way out onto the circuit so they can set their first lap times of the session, and definitely be interesting to see how everyone does. And now you probably mentioned or noticed already that the drivers aren't actually using the official F1 23 cars. That's because just like at the start of the game, thankfully EA and Codemasters have brought back this fantastic feature that we've all really wanted back for quite some time now. They've actually made equal cars unequal. I know, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite impressive. So it is back, and that means we are on to the F1 World Cars. So we'll see some, hopefully, some exciting liveries that the drivers have designed for themselves. And yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky to know exactly where everyone is on the track map, which is going to cause me some struggles at least. But hopefully we, both you guys and myself, can keep up with these driver liveries, and the race should just go fine. So the driver's now out on circuit. I have no idea who's the first man out on circuit, because obviously drivers in all these different cars, so I'm going to guess that it is the PSGL PlayStation F2 legend Will Murdoch currently coming through the stadium section of the circuit. And you can see now into the final turn to start his first lap time of the session, and we'll ride on board with him to see exactly how he does on this lap. So out of the final turn onto this very, very long DRS pit straight, one of the longest on the F1 calendar, so we should hopefully see plenty of overtaking coming into this very turn of turn number 1, of which he hits his apex. Now this chicane of turn number 2 and 3, very tricky to get right. Some drivers like to ride that curb of turn number 3. Not sure if that's still a thing on this game. It's been quite a while since I've raced at this circuit, but Will Murdoch now making his way into the middle sector of the lap time. You can see this first part of the lap, very technical, very slow. You have to hit your apexes, set up your exits, and don't spin the wheels like Will Murdoch has just done. Now this is where it changes up just a little bit, where we get into really high speed section, nice flowing turns through this middle sector, and then another DRS straight before going back to a much more relaxed version of the circuit here in the stadium section, hitting the hairpin. Now you want to hit a late apex here and then riding this curb, which is exactly what Will Murdoch does. And now through the final turn of the lap, getting nice and tight to that inside line. Across the line, it will be a 1:15.671 for Will Murdoch. That is the benchmark in this time, and the time that every other driver now has to attempt to beat. And already NLR Keke with the time onto the board. He's actually slower than Will Murdoch by 1/10 of a second, so impressive to see that Will Murdoch has set a quick lap time, at least compared to the likes of Keke. But here is our qualifying master here in PSF2, ET8 Dark, who's actually transferred from VIR to ET8, along with ET8 Dirk, who was at Outplayed Racing. Both of those guys moving to the ET8 team, and Dark currently finds himself on provisional pole position by about 1/100th of a second. That gets quickly stolen away by Outplayed Racing Covers, who now goes to that pole with a 15.5. We'll try to find someone who's on a lap time here. OP Max Mandergeest is not on a lap time. Meanwhile, his old teammate ET8 Dirk is, as he comes out of the final turn. Or will he be able to place himself relative to his ET8 teammate Dark? He goes up to P4 with a 15.7, so the time's quite close together at this early stage, from P4 down to P7, less than 1/10 of a second separating those guys. So it's good to see that that upper midfield is very competitive. ET8 Nick Leope is coming into the stadium section, so we've gone from having a lot of OP drivers to having quite a few ET8 drivers as well. So Outplayed Racing, ET8 and NLR are the 3 big teams in this division, along with the platform itself. Nick Leope up to P13 now with a 15.9. We'll definitely have to go out and try to improve upon that. Meanwhile, we have our championship leader NLR Erpek coming through the middle sector of the lap time, and remember, his aim in this race is going to be to finish in the top 7 positions, and he will be taking home the championship title, unless NLR Keke has to win in order for him to stay in this championship battle. If Keke doesn't win, then Erpek will still be taking home the title. That is just how big his lead currently is. His time was invalidated though, so he's going to come across the line to try go for another lap time, although he is quite low on the ERS, so it probably won't be too competitive. Shizou Zane having some difficulties with the track limits, and that's definitely not uncommon at this circuit. As Max van der Gies goes up to P1 with a 15.454, so two outplayed racing drivers at the top of the timing sheets with a 15.4 and a 15.5, and they're definitely a bit further ahead than the rest of the field, so good lap time there from Max van der Gies to put himself at the top. We're watching his outplayed racing teammate Nuth currently come into the stadium section. He's down in P17. I do believe he invalidated his first time in the session, and that's why he's a bit further down. Obviously, without a lap time in the session, that's along with 4 other drivers, so 5 drivers totals without laps. So they definitely need to do that now. Would be the perfect time in the middle of the session, while you still have time before the track evolution is at its maximum. So right on board with Nuth to see if he struggles on the second lap as he heads into turn number 1, missing that apex ever so slightly, but maybe that sets him up nicely for turn 2 and 3, which it actually does so, as he gets a good exit out of that chicane and for his run down this DRS straight into turn number 4. 28.6 in the first sector, turning in a bit early there for the 4th turn. But now we come to the double right-hander, or actually just a single right-hander nowadays, of turn number 6 and into the middle sector. So let's see how he does through these turns, actually riding the curb of turn number 7 there. Quite risky, but he tries it and it does work out. Sometimes that can send your car spinning into the barriers, but Nuth controlling his car quite nicely. Now he comes into the hairpin of turn number 13, really wide on the entry, which is good as it opens up the turn as much as you possibly can. Now into the final turn of turn number 17 to finish his first valid lap time. It's a 15.9. Sadly, only good enough for P15 so far in the session. So plenty of time to find for OP Nuth. Meanwhile, we're watching NLR Keke now. He's improving by a 1/10.5 out of the first 3 turns of the lap. So that's definitely promising for the NLR driver. A little bit of a slide of the rear end as he tries to ride that curb of turn number 8. But he still gets through it and onto this DRS straight now. We'll be able to see his split only improving by 28 1/1000ths now. So he's got it all to find in this very technical section of the final sector. Through the hairpin, riding turn number 14 as much as he can here. Slight slide as he still manages to get through. And now he's just got to finish it off. But no, he decides to pull it into the pit lane as he's probably not improving on his lap time. So NLR Keke, that's a mistake on his second lap. So he's only going to have 2 laps total in the session, which is definitely a shame for the NLR man. I'm sure he would have liked to have 3 good solid laps, but he's just going to have to continue on with the 2. Meanwhile, ET8 Dirk is P3 currently, 15.6 for the ET8 man. As you can see, a bit of a correction on the exit, almost invalidating his lap time, but he keeps it within the limits. Now he's just got to prepare for this middle sector, hitting it with the left, riding the grass slightly, left, right, and then this very difficult right here, which is quite easy to invalidate through that section. But obviously with these, well, they're not really new F123 cars anymore. New compared to last game, they have a lot more grip in the high-speed sections, and Parnell Racing Noah is putting that on full display. He sets a 15.3 to put him into P1. Baki promotes himself into 3rd position with a 15.5. What can Dark do across the line? It's a 15.5 also, making it 3 drivers with a 15.5 second lap time. So he puts himself onto the 2nd row of the field, and that's a decent lap time so far. He is actually 2/10 away from that pole position, so that is quite a good lap time from Parnell Racing No. He's currently a 10th ahead of Max van der Gies and 2/10 ahead of Baki in P4. So the gaps are definitely quite wide. Well, it's only a 1/10 of a second between each of the drivers, but for PSGL PlayStation F2, that is a decent enough gap. and he has got that gap at the front of the field, so doing quite well for himself in this session. Another man who's just popped up into the top 3 is Tails, with a 15.456 to 1,000ths away from OP Max van der Geest, who he himself is trying to set a lap time here as he comes out of the third turn with the DRS wide open, navigating through the slow cars down that DRS straight, improving out of the first sector. Now he's just got to find a little bit more time through the final 2 sectors of the lap time, heading through turn number 6, now hitting that second apex of the turn. Very unusual turn to have 2 apexes like that, but it is very nice turn and sets you up for this flowing section. You can see trying to cut that turn as much as he possibly can without going wide, which he does so successfully, and sees him improving by a 10.5 now out of the middle sector. This could be a very, very quick lap time from OP Max van der Geest. He's just got to get through this final braking zone, and barely braking, just a tap of the brakes and then accelerating straight away. So across the lines, a 15.310, and that is going to place Max van der Geest on pole position once again ahead of Parallel Racing Knoll. So it looks like we have a nice battle for pole position currently going on, and ETA Dirk has just reinserted himself back into a top 3 position after going for 2 laps on this set of soft compound tires, which is quite impressive that he's been able to go that fast on low battery and obviously worn tires. And you can see he's actually ran out of fuel as soon as he finished the lap time. So yeah, ETA Dirk just about sneaking in that second lap. So now he puts himself in a slightly better position than he previously was. Drivers still improving. You have Diogo Silva getting up to P6. He's been on a pretty good run of form recently, and I do believe he got a podium in one of the last rounds. I can check for you here. Should probably know this already, but yes, Diogo Silva got a podium in Belgium, finished P2. I remember that quite well. And last race did finish a bit further down in P10, but still in the points paying positions, and he'll definitely look to be a bit further up this race as he slides through his in lap here. 15.490 is the current time for himself, and not too far away from that provisional pole position. But is there anyone else on a lap time? Yes, there is. No, there isn't. Will Murdoch is not on a lap. He's actually on an in lap, so I think he's made a mistake on that lap there. But you can see a little bit further down, you have the likes of NLR Spicer is in the pit lane, sorry. OP Noose, though, is coming through the final turn. Is he improving on his time as he crosses the line here? He goes to P15 once again. Shizu Zane was actually in the bottom half of the field. He's just popped up to P4 with a 15.3. Lewis as well, getting a 15.3. I believe he was down there in P16 or so, and he's just gone up to second place. So 2 guys who weren't in the battle for pole at all have now just put themselves in the battle for pole, as both of them getting a 15.3. So they're within a 1/10 of a second of that time that Max van der Geest has set a few minutes ago. So starting to get a lot closer at the front of the field, which is obviously what we love to see. Currently from P1 all the way down to P12, just 2/10 of a second, or actually all the way down to P13, I should say, is 3/10 of a second. So top 13, all with a chance of getting pole position in this session, entirely possible for someone like Nick Leope, and especially NLR Keke and ETA Dark. You notice they're down in P12 and P11. You'd usually expect them to be a lot higher, but they're being displaced, like drivers like Mal, who's up there in P9, Tails is up there in P6, Shizu Zane in P4, and Lewis in P2. So those guys putting on above average performances for their standards tonight, which is good to see from them. They've just got to keep it up now, because everyone is going to be coming out of the pit lane quite quickly to set their final lap times in the session. And obviously these final times will be the very fastest, because the track evolution is up to the maximum, which means everyone is going to be going as quick as possible, apart from OP Skyline, who's actually come out a bit earlier than quite a few of the drivers. OP Skyline was VIR. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they might have closed down. I could be very, very wrong about that, but he's moved from VIR now to Outplayed Racing, and he's just moved from P17 to P14 with a 15.6. So improving, but only marginally, and definitely not enough to be in the position that he'd hope to be in this session. So he's going to have some work to do in this Grand Prix, but plenty of drivers still with work to do in this very qualifying session. Pierre Knoll is one of them, currently in P3. Might be one of the favourites for pole position in this session, but there are too many favourites to have just one single favourite. So there's always the likes of Max van der Geest, Knoll, obviously Lewis and Shizu Zane have got up there. ET8 Dirk that has got every chance. Tails covers Diogo Silva, Baki, Dirk, Keke, all big names in this division that could be scoring a pole position here in Mexico. So let's see the drivers now getting ready for their final laps. We'll see who is going to be crossing the line first here. A couple of drivers crossing the line now, and we'll be able to tell on the left-hand side of our screen who out of the top 9 is starting first. It's OP Covers, who's just come across the line. So let's ride on board for a full lap time with the Outplayed Racing driver on the run. Down into turn number 1 here, and a very, very long run, revving out 8th gear as he does so into the first turn and hitting a very, very nice apex, riding the second curb, and then just about tapping that turn number 3, which is quite a nice line from Outplayed Racing Covers. Might be running a bit lower on the right height, as he's obviously not trying to ride that third curb too much. Into turn number 6 now, and he's not improving out of the first sector so far, but the first sector is the shortest of the 3 sectors, so hopefully that means there's something to find in these last 2. Rayman, I think, actually getting disconnected from the session there. Hopefully he can rejoin nice and quickly, but Covers out of the middle sector. Is he improving? Yes, he is, and by a 10th a second here. He's just got a few more turns to go, including this turn number 13, riding the curb of turn number 14, and now through this final flat out turn of turn number 17, although a slight correction across the line to 15.194, and Outplayed Racing Covers has just smoked the field and gone to provisional pole position. But will it last for long, because ET8 Dark has just gone up to P2 with a 15.2. The track evolution is looking really good now, so pretty much all the times that were set earlier on are looking pretty irrelevant, because look how fast these top 2 have just gone compared to Max van der Geest, who's making his way through the final sector. Our championship leader, NLR Urpek, up to P4 now. Pierre Knoll is out of the session, could not improve on his lap. Meanwhile, Van der Geest, he goes to P2, but not enough for pole position. Is there anyone that can compete with the likes of OP Covers? ET8 Dirk has invalidated his time. Shizu Zane is coming into the pit lane, and there's not too many other drivers still on a lap. Mal, his session is over. OP Johan is improving on his time. He's currently down in P18, and he's just got one more braking zone to go before he ends this off. Can he get himself a little bit further up in that midfield and across the line? Can improve, but he only improves by 1 position, which means that Outplayed Racing Cover is going to be on pole position for tonight's Mexican Grand Prix. That is a fantastic result. 15.1. I mean, that is just stunning from the Outplayed Racing driver. And he really pulled his finger out when it was most important. He beats Max van der Geest by almost half a 10th of a second. And I mean, that is just beautiful from Outplayed Racing Covers. It means it's going to be an Outplayed Racing front row lockout for the 2 of those guys, and a very good job in the qualifying session. So we can now take a look at the full field. The top 3 separated by less than a 10th of a second, with ET8 Dark getting up into that 3rd position. We then have Lewis in P4. Fantastic qualifying for him. NLR Urpek, our championship leader, he's in the top 7 so far. He's just got to keep that up in the Grand Prix itself. Knoll in P6 with Zane in P7. OP Noose managed to get up to P8 in the end, with Dirk down in P9. Tails finishing in the top 10. Diogo dropped down to P11, Malin P12 with back in P13, Enela Keke sadly down to P14 with Nick Leope in 15th, OP Skyline in 16th, followed by his OP teammate Johan in 17th. Then we have Will Murdoch, Enela Spicer and OP Rayman, who probably had a qualifying ban, and that's why he did not set a time in the session. So that is the end of qualifying. Now it is time for the race. And before we do actually get in the race, a quick word from our sponsors. That was our title sponsor, GT Omega. You can be sure to check them out. They will have a link to their website in the description. And if you use code PSGL at checkout, you actually get 5% off of your order. So very, very handy if you want to get yourself a cockpit. But we are now ready for the Grand Prix itself. And James Head sneaking into my chat and dropping a quick pun before the start of this Grand Prix, which is quite lovely to see now that Alex the G isn't here to supply those anymore. But we are on the grid for the race itself with 5 red lights. They're gone, and we are away. What kind of stars it for our pole man of Outplayed Racing Covers up against his teammate Max van der Geest on the run into turn number 1. Max van der Geest trying to follow closely in the slipstream. Meanwhile, behind you have the ET8 Dirk trying to get involved in this battle. Max van der Geest goes to that outside line coming into turn number 1. He's not going to be able to make the move because he's defending from ET8 Dirk, trying to turn defense into attack. It's not worked out. Covers still holding that lead. Lewis getting in a side-by-side battle with our championship leader. A lot of carnage, as you can see, almost 3 wide coming into turn number 4. A lot of people pulling out of the slipstream. Noel has got himself up into P4. Lewis defending from Shazoo Zane. You can see that's 2 drivers that's been spun round there, and that would be Enelai Erpek, who's been involved in that. He's just dropped down to P20. Diogo Silva getting promoted up into 7th position with OP Nuth trying to attack him. But Enelai Erpek has just dropped down to the bottom of the field into P20. You can see a lot of people getting caught up in incidents. Nick Leope is one of them. OP Skyline dropping down a bit. OP Rayman is actually disconnected from the session. And then you can see Johan, ET8 Dirk and Enelai Spies are all losing DRS to the top 13s, while a lot of carnage on that opening lap, and our championship leader has just dropped down to P20 in the session. Outplayed Racing Covers is leading this Grand Prix, and by quite some margin. 9.5 tenths is the difference between the two Outplayed Racing men. And OP Covers trying to run away at the start of this race. He's currently doing so successfully with a 1 second gap built up between himself and Max van der Geest. He's just got to keep going now, pushing hard with the battery levels. You can see he's already down to about 25% there on his wheel. DRS is going to be enabled on lap 3, so Max van der Geest needs to get himself back in to the DRS and make sure that he doesn't allow OP Covers to run away with this one. Meanwhile, in the midfield on this lap 2 at least, everyone is a little bit more calm than they were on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Let's see, as OP Nuth is on the back of Diogo Silva, and everyone is quite close together. You can see OP Nuth a little bit slow in the middle sector, which is allowing Mal to get a bit closer. Can Mal try to go for a move here? He's in the slipstream down this straight, but no DRS is enabled just yet, so he's going to have some difficulties overtaking into this turn number 12. But everyone a lot calmer. So you can see turn 1, everyone learning from what's just happened and deciding they don't want any more collisions. 3 drivers actually had to come into the pit lane at the end of that opening lap. It's ET8 Dirk, Nick Leope and Tails who had to make unscheduled pit stops. So super unfortunate for those guys, especially ET8 Dirk, who was getting up the field, but sadly getting caught in an incident like that. He is now at the back. And Alar Erpek also coming into the pit lane, and might be for a front wing change. We can go ahead and have a look here, and it is in fact for a front wing change. So 4 drivers getting front wing damage on that opening lap. which is not ideal. But we're now seeing a little bit closer to the front of the field. Max van der Geest is beginning to push, trying to get back into that DRS of Outplayed Racing covers, because it is lap 3 of the Grand Prix, which means DRS has now been enabled. Pierre Nol, though, is struggling to keep up with this new pace that Max van der Geest is beginning to set, and that has dropped him out of the DRS of ET8 Dirk. You can see Mal also struggling to keep up, so a lot of links being broken in this DRS chain, and that is not ideal for quite a few drivers. And currently OP covers still outside of the DRS of Max van der Geest, so he's doing fantastically so far. ET8 Dark has been able to hang on to the DRS of Max and doing fantastically so far, and especially carrying over from his qualifying performance of qualifying in the top 3. He's now still onto the podium and could be getting himself a podium in this Mexican Grand Prix. Pierre Nol 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 seconds behind. That you can see how much of a difference DRS makes down that pit straight, losing about 3 or 4 tenths there to ETA Dark, and he's not really going to be able to make that gap back up. Otherwise, or unless he pushes extremely hard and finds some magical pace through the turns. Tails setting the fastest lap at the Grand Prix now after boxing for a fresh set of tyres. Speaking of tyres, we should probably take a look at what everyone has decided to go with. So we have one driver who started on the mediums. Every other single driver has started on the hard composite tyres, including the bottom 4, but obviously they had to make early pit stops and they've come onto the mediums after starting on the hard. So OP covers, you can obviously see why he's been able to pull away from Max van der Geest, the only driver to start on a tyre that isn't the hards. And then there's obviously OP Rayman, but he disconnected from the session, so that's just an AI car driving around, so it doesn't really matter what strategy it's gone with. But OP covers the only driver, so that's how he's able to maintain a good gap to Max van der Geest behind, and currently that gap is sitting at about 1.4 seconds, and that's actually left Max van der Geest open to attack from behind. ET8 Dark is going to go to that inside line. He sails past the Outplayed Racing driver, but he goes deep into turn number 1. That's going to allow Max to go to the outside line and then the inside for turn number 3, and that regains him that second place position. But don't want to be doing much of that because that's lost them about 3 tenths to Outplayed Racing covers ahead. So yeah, these guys obviously don't want to battle too much, but a mistake from ET8 Dark has cost both himself and Max in this Grand Prix, in the early stage of this Grand Prix. The other DRS train, Lewis, is trying to catch up to Dark, and currently he's made some inroads. He's only 1.2 seconds away. This train goes all the way from Lewis in P4 to Keke in P10, but otherwise it's OP covers 2.2 seconds ahead of everyone else, so he's not really in any sort of pressure from any of the drivers who are trying to contend for that race victory. Noel's currently on the back of Lewis, and he might be looking to make a move before Lewis can get back into the DRS of ET8 Dark. So let's see exactly what Noel is going to do. We also might see another attempt at a move from ET8 Dark. So down this pit straight, you can see Noel burning all of his ERS. He's got 0% left in the tank, but he's still got more straight line speed. He pulls that inside line, and he gets the job done on Lewis. Let's see what Dark does into the first turn. This time he gets his braking right, and he holds P2 in the race. PR Noel 1.2 seconds away from Max van der Geest, so 2 tenths is all he needs to gain, and this is the last DRS straight until the final sector of the lap. So if he can find some time through the slow turns and the fast turns, then hopefully he can relink that DRS chain from P2 all the way down to P10. He is going to have to push quite hard, and it's going to be difficult since he is low on battery. He's using all of it, though. Anything that he's got left, he's currently got about 5% left, and he's using anything that he has got. But this is the next DRS straight now, and he's not into that 1 second gap, so it definitely struggles on his side to keep up with the top 3, who are definitely very quick at this early stage of the race. And you can see everyone else in this DRS train, they know they're on the hard composite tires. This is the stint where you're not really expecting to make too many overtakes, and you're just looking to relax, gain a bit of ERS, save a bit of tire wear, and mainly hold your position unless a good opportunity arises. You can see Lewis almost losing the DRS down that straight, and that is worrying for himself because you do not want to be losing the DRS. We saw what is currently happening with both ET8 Dark and Parnell Racing Knoll as they come out of turn number 3. That gap between the top two extending to 2.4 seconds now, so OP Covers looking extremely good, and he's on the undercut strategy as well, so he might even have a lead of upwards of 6 seconds when everyone has made their pit stops. Of course, safety cars could get in the way of that, which would not be ideal unless it came quite soon, so that Covers could switch from the mediums to the hards and make it to the end of the Grand Prix. That would be ideal for our race leader. NLR Urpec currently down in P19. We'll definitely have to keep a close eye on our championship leader, but until there's a safety car, there's a chance that he probably won't be scoring points in this Grand Prix. So yeah, down in that P19 position for now, and if he wants to win the championship, well, he can either finish in the top 7, or if NLR Keke does not win this Grand Prix, he has to win this Grand Prix, otherwise the championship will go to Urpec. So it's mainly based on where Keke finishes, and Keke currently P10, so even if Urpec finishes outside of the points, he could be celebrating a championship tonight nevertheless. We just saw Max van der Geest overtaking ET8 Dark to get himself back up into P2. These guys trying to work together a little bit to catch up to our race lead, and they've done so. They actually have gained about 0.2 or 0.3 of a second. Obviously using that DRS is going to help them catch up to OP Covers, but Covers is going to have to think about when he wants to box, probably around lap, I don't know, maybe 16, I'd say 15. I don't know, the tire wear is quite high, or was quite high on previous games, so yeah, I'd say 16 would be roughly when a medium runner would want to come in, and then hard runners would probably be lap 19, lap 18, or maybe lap 20 and go for an overcut like that. And so the pit stops are definitely a few laps away, but these laps are quite short, which is a good thing, because it means we get to go through the DRS, the pit DRS straight, 36 times total. So a lot more overtaking opportunities when a circuit is shorter. We're seeing Mal now get a bit close to the back of Diogo Silva, and everyone getting close to each other, but not close enough to make an overtake because of everyone having the DRS. So everyone has that straight line advantage, which means basically no one has that straight line advantage. Apart from Pierre Knoll, he does not have the DRS. He's holding his own though up against Lewis, who has gotten himself comfortably back in to that 1 second gap. But Knowles is just sitting there at that 1.2 second range. He's the exact same as Max van der Geest, who's also just sitting at 2.2 seconds. So at least Max and Knoll are both holding consistent gaps to the drivers ahead of them, which is what you need, especially since OP Covers is going to be on the harder compound tire come the end of the Grand Prix. So that will see him be in a disadvantageous position compared to everyone else who will be on the mediums for the final stint. Will Murdoch has actually just sent one to the inside of Mal, probably because of a mistake on the exit of turn number 12. That's lost Mal P8 in the race and allowed Will Murdoch to move up to a top 8 position. So good job from him trying to move his way up the field. Anyone going to make a move into this turn number 1? Yes, there is actually, as Max van der Geest is re-overtaken by ET8 Dirk. Those guys just trying to work together in this race. Two people who aren't working together are Baki and OP Nuth, although they probably are actually, because they're 2.7 seconds away from the top 10, and they need to find some time if they want to catch up to those guys, or maybe go for a bit more of an undercut strategy. But Baki, Nuth and Spicer all in their own little DRS train at this current stage, and trying to work together just a little bit to gain any sort of time that they can, because that gap is now 3 seconds between Baki and Enela Keke. Heading out of turn number 6. Pierre Nol, he's so close to that DRS. Has he gotten into the DRS by the detection point? No, he has not. It's 9/10, 1 second. He needs to gain time in this final sector, and if he does have a nice final sector, he will be into that DRS. So let's see. You can see he's gone very wide on the entry, which just slid his car through the turn, then sliding on the exit. And has that lost him a chance of DRS? I believe it has. Coming across the start-finish line, we're about to see, is he going to open that rear wing flap? The answer is yes. So he has just about snuck into that DRS, and that is perfect for Pierre Nol, as he's now got himself back into contention for P2 in this Grand Prix. And that detection point in the final sector is also going to give you DRS for this straight as well. So now he is going to be quite comfortably into that range of Dark and Max van der Geest ahead. So great job there from Pierre Nol, displaying some good pace on lap 11 of 36. And now you can see, after getting that DRS effect that it's had already, he's within 6/10 and within touching distance of ET8 Dark ahead of him. So very close now, but Pierre Nol, he's had to do a lot to get there, and one of those things is extending the track limits to try and gain some time. But at the end of the day, he's extended them one too many times, which is a total of 3 times, as we saw in the entry of turn number 7 being the final straw. OP Noose then picks one up straight after, as he gets a 3-second time penalty, currently in P11. That would drop him down to P14 because OP Johan has actually caught up to that DRS train. But guess what? OP Johan, who's just caught up to that DRS train, yes, he has got a 3-second time penalty as well. So it seems like everyone is popping up with time penalties, and I suppose this is the stage of the race where a lot of drivers are pushing quite hard, especially in the situation of Nol. Johan, who's trying to catch up to the DRS. OP Nuth is trying to catch up to the DRS. So basically all of the drivers who are trying to get back into the DRS have got themselves 3-second time penalties, making it a total of 3 drivers now. But Pierre Nol, he was able to get himself into the DRS of ET8 Dark, and that has actually helped him more than he maybe first thought, because that DRS has allowed him to pull away from Lewis, and then Lewis lost the DRS and then also lost the position to Shizou Zane, and now it's up to Shizou Zane to try and catch up to the DRS of the top 4. So it's really, everyone is just trying to catch up to DRS. Everyone just trying to get within that 1-second gap, that crucial 1-second gap that's oh so important for all of these guys to stay close to one another and to make overtakes, and everyone just spending most of their time trying to get into that 1-second gap. So now it's the likes of Shizou Zane and OP Nuth who are trying to get into the DRS, along with, of course, our man in P2, which is Outplayed Racing's Max van der Geest. We now see, though, Lewis with DRS and Shizou Zane without it, and that's going to be an easy move for Lewis down the pit straight. Can Diogo Silva try and get involved? No, but he does get close. We now see another time penalty. That's for Nick Liope. Currently won't affect him since he is down in P20. Hoping for a safety car to try and get back into this Grand Prix out of turn number 3 for Diogo Silva with the DRS wide open. And now it's Lewis's turn to try and play catch up with Nol ahead. Nick Liope has actually crashed out of the session. That is in the middle sector of the lap time, and it has caused a virtual safety car. Thankfully for the hard runners, it's not a full course safety car, but depending on how long this lasts, maybe OP Covers can sneak into the pit lane and get a free pit stop out of this. That would work out perfectly for him if it lasts that long. So we'll see exactly what OP Covers is going to do. And also remember, the VSC restart is extremely crucial, because if you speed, you will be getting yourself a drive-through penalty. And if you don't go fast enough, you might lose DRS to the driver ahead. So it's very tricky to get right. You have to find the balance between going too fast and going too slow. But OP covers now. Is he into the pit lane? Yes is the answer. He's going to sneak on in there and get himself a set of white-walled hard compound tires. So a very well-timed virtual safety car for our race leader, and that's just going to help him out that little bit more, even after creating a 2.2 second gap. So this is very, very good for OP covers, and he is going to have a very big lead once everyone has made their pit stop. So coming out of the pit lane now, let's see exactly what OP covers is going to do. As well, not what he's going to do, where he's going to be, and it's going to be P11 for Outplayed Racing covers. And he's got his teammate Skyline a little bit further behind him. That's OP Noose. I thought it was covers there for a moment, but no, OP Noose, he has sped under VSC, and that is a drive-through penalty. Extremely unfortunate. He's just gone a bit early, and now Baki is attacking him into turn number 4. Is OP Noose going to fight it? No, he's not, because he's got a drive-through penalty, and he's probably not too happy with that one. So he allows Baki and Spicer to go through, and like I said, it's so easy to get it wrong. During the VSC, ETA Dark has made a mistake here, as he almost gets in the way of Shizu's aim. But what's happening to ETA Dark? He's had to go off of the circuit there. He's falling down to P6. Can it even be P7? Yes, it is. And then Baki's a little bit further behind. So what has happened to ETA Dark? He's going extremely slowly. Has he got wing damage? Yes, he has. So there was obviously an incident between himself and Parnell Racing Null, and that's happened in the millisecond of lap time. So a lot happening, and I'm sorry that I'm missing it. I just do not see this coming, as ETA Dark has completely broken his front wing. He's now had to come into the pit lane to repair that wing and get himself a set of medium tires, which will hopefully make it to the end of the Grand Prix, although they will be very worn come the end of the Grand Prix. So extremely unfortunate for ETA Dark, and then OP News obviously serving his drive-through penalties. So yeah, a lot happening, a lot of mistakes, and an incident as well between Noel and ETA Dark. We're seeing Will Murdoch send it on Shizu Zane. That will put him in a P5 position. Lewis getting a 3-second time penalty, so another one. That's 4 drivers with 3-second time penalties, and you can imagine that number is probably going to grow as the laps tick on. But Noel and Lewis, those are probably the most crucial 3-second time penalties, because they are in not only race winning positions, but podium, mainly podium positions as well, because it's looking very, very good for OP Covers to win this Grand Prix. So quite a bit has happened there since our VSCs. Let's take a look at the order of the field. We have Max Vandegeest leading this Grand Prix. He's still got a pit stop to make, and he is leading by 1.5 seconds. He's comfortably ahead of Parnell Racing Null currently. Lewis is following nice and close in that DRS of Null, as he has been for quite a few laps now. Diogo Silva outside the DRS, which is going to leave him vulnerable to Will Murdoch, who's going to make a move into the first turn. That puts him into P4. Diogo Silva now drops down to a top 5 position rather than a top 4. We then have also Shizu Zane's in that little DRS train. Baki goes deep into the first turn, so Spicer is going to try to go for a switchback move through turn number 3. Does he get the better exit? Yes, he does. He will not have the DRS though, so it's going to be a drag race, and he has got a bit more drag than Baki, so Baki is going to hold that P7 position. So we got Baki and Spicer battling it away with OP Covers. He's actually already caught up to these guys. He's experiencing a little bit of traffic, so he needs to dispatch of these drivers as quickly as he possibly can, so that he's not losing time to the likes of Max Vandegeest, who is in plenty of clean air. And you can see how much these guys are holding them up. 13 laps of wear is the difference between OP Covers heights and Spicer. And Spicer actually going off the circuit there. He's defending the inside line. Covers is not going to go for a move. Spicer holds that position for now, but let's see what happens on this next pit straight. I'm sure we'll see a few more moves. There are also drivers who have boxed on mediums. We'll take a look at them in a moment, but Lewis is down this pit straight. He's going for the move on PR Null here, and he's going to successfully complete that one. Is Diogo Silva going to try to go for it? No, he actually pulled out of the slipstream down that straight. OP Covers is going to try to make 2 moves into the first turn, and he's got that done. So getting out of the way of the traffic as quickly as possible. And this could actually help Baki and Spicer, because he may pull them along now. So a lot of give and take here throughout the field. Some drivers getting good bonuses. Some obviously getting obstructed, like OP covers there, but only for a brief moment. We see Mal and Keke. They are on the medium compound tires, which I assume they're most likely going to be taking them to the end of the Grand Prix. So they're in a very interesting position tactically. OP Johan is also in P13 on the medium compounded tires. Then you have the likes of Skyline, who's yet to box. Dark has already boxed as after yet to repair his front wing. He's now a lot further down than he should be because of that unfortunate incident between himself and Noel. We then have Noose yet to box, and he's a lot further down because of his drive-through penalty. Then we have Tails, Urpek and Dark, and all these guys down in those positions with worn mediums because of their lap 1 instance, which forced them to come into the pit lane to repair their front wing. But we're now seeing more people come into the pit lane, one of them including Parnell Racing, Noel and Abaki as well, also into the pit lane. So these guys coming in for the mediums on lap 18 of 36. That means the medium compound tires will be lasting them about 18 laps. So they're doing half and half on the tires, which is usually the ideal strategy if you started on the hard tires. But where's Noel just come out? Well, he's come out a bit further behind the likes of Johan, Keke and Mal, which is interesting to see. You can see actually Keke and Mal are really far ahead. That's obviously because they boxed during the VSCs. They've gained loads of time compared to Parnell Racing Noel. So these guys could be in quite a good position. Obviously they have much more worn tires, but I think everything's about to get a little bit more confusing with all these pit stops coming in. But Mal and Keke, I can tell you for certain, at this stage of the race at least, are in a very good position. And if those tyres hold on for as long as they need to in this race, they could go on to get themselves a podium each. And Keke, he needs to win if he wants to hold on to his championship hopes. But we now see Mal sending one to the inside line of turn number 16 on Spicer there. Spicer just about leaving the room on the inside. Wasn't expecting that one. He's now going to get overtaken by NLR Keke as well. So Spicer losing 2 positions out of all of that. As will Keke go for the move on Mal? He might actually coming into turn number 1. But no, he is not laid enough on the brakes. We hold P7 for the moment. But I'm sure Mal and Keke will be looking to work together and just try to stay away from the likes of PR Noel, ET8 Dark. And also, you just seen Will Murdoch has come into the pits for the medium compound tires. ET8 Dark, even though he broke his front wing and had to get it repaired, he's still in the DRS of PR Noel. So he's still on for a podium position. At least he would have been if Keke and Mal weren't involved. So he's probably now on for a top 5, maybe top 3 position if these guys can catch up to Mal and Keke. But you can see a bit rough there between Skyline and Noel. Skyline is just going to allow ET8 Dark through there unless you made a mistake. Not too sure which has happened there, but OP Nuth has made a mistake. That's out of turn number 6. And that has just dropped them down to P16, losing him the positions to both Baki and Tails. Will Murdoch now encountering OP Skyline and 18 lap old hard compound tires. You can visibly see the difference and the tense that Will Murdoch is losing sitting behind this guy. So Will Murdoch is going to go for a move as quickly as he can. That's a lot more people now into the pit lane. We have Shizu Zane, Diogo Silva, Lewis is the highest driver who was just boxed there, or he was in the highest position. He's now into P9, and actually Max Van Dijk come into the pit lane as well, I've just noticed. So he is into P7. So let's evaluate where everyone is at, mainly for myself because I'm a little confused. So let's get ourselves up to speed. So everyone has made a pit stop in this race apart from NLR Spicer in P4, OP Skyline in P11, and then Tails, Noose and Urpek in P15, 16 and 17. And the Dirk has made his final stop in the race. So essentially everyone in the top 10 currently is in the position that they are in. because all the pit stops have been made. Apart from Johan and down to Lewis, they are +1 positions. So we'll work with that now. That's a lot more easier to work with in this race and helps us grasp what is exactly going on in this race. We'll look at our race leader. We have OP Covers leading this one by 4.2 seconds, and that is an official gap. No pit stops left, no nothing. That is an official gap made on pure pace. OP Covers is winning by 4.2 seconds, and unless Keke and Mal find some fantastic pace, he's probably going to hold that gap because the mediums are going to drop off quicker than the hards. So Covers is the favourite to win this one. We've just seen Max van der Geest overtake Parnell Racing Knoll into the first turn of the circuit. Keke and Mal are on for a podium. OP Johan is up in P4, but he's got a 3-second time penalty if Max van der Geest gets himself within that 3-second gap, which he will, because the gap in tyre difference is 6 laps. So he's got 6 lap faster tyres than OP Johan, and he's almost already in that 3-second gap. So basically, Max van der Geest, Knoll and Dark have to push extremely hard now. They have to gain, first of all, 8 seconds if they want to catch up to the podium runners of Mal and Keke. And then they have to catch up another 4 seconds if they want to catch up to OP Covers. So they definitely have their work cut out for them after the virtual safety car and the top 3 all coming into the pit lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamic of this Grand Prix evolves. So we'll keep an eye, especially on Max van der Geest, Knoll and Dark. Will Murdoch is actually involved in this battle as well. He's brought Lewis along with him. Max van der Geest saying the fast lap the Grand Prix with Mal overtaking Enelag Keke. Pierre Knoll struggling to keep up with Max van der Geest. He has got the DRS4 now, but will that last? Well, at least it will for the next straight because the detection point is in the final sector of the lap time. Dark is here. Will Murdoch has not got the DRS on that straight, which has lost him a bit of time. We're seeing Diogo Silva and Shazoo Zane battling it out for a top 10 position. And now we're really going to see the drivers battle as hard as they possibly can, because where you are on circuit now is where you will be finishing in the Grand Prix. Max van der Geest has gained about 2 seconds to OP Johan in the space of 1 lap time. Very, very impressive from the Alpe Racing man. And now he's just got to overtake Johan. He'll have 5.5 seconds of clean air, and that's where he really needs to push hard to catch up to the top 3. So let's see him coming into the stadium section. Let's see what the grip difference is like visually coming through here, and you'll definitely notice it through these slow sections where the tires do have a very big effect, and Max van der Geest gaining about 3/10 through that sector alone. Let's see what he can do down the pit straight with the DRS open in the slipstream. Can he make the move on Johan straight away and then get DRS from the next straight as well? Yes, is the answer. He pulls that inside line, then back onto the racing line and ahead of his Outplayed Racing teammate. He's up into the top 4, and now he is on the hunt for not only a podium but P1 in this race. He has got 13 laps to catch up to our race leader of Covers on the higher component tires. He's got 3 lap old mediums, and now this is going to be quite the challenge for Max van der Geest. Gap between him and our race leader, 8.6 seconds between the 2 OP men. Parnell Knoll now trying to keep up with Max van der Geest, but he's got Johan between them. Knoll with a 3-second time penalty currently, along with OP Johan as well, and Lewis is also another driver with a 3-second time penalty. So that means that ET8 Dirk and Will Murdoch are in very, very good positions, as their net positions currently are P5 and P6. So ET8 Dark is already in the top 5. If he wants to improve his position further, he's going to have to catch up to Max van der Geest, and that's quite the challenge, because Max van der Geest has just set 2 fastest laps in a row, and he is now 3.7 seconds away. So just to reiterate what has just happened, he has gained 2 seconds in a single lap time. Max van der Geest is a man on a mission, and Keke and Mal trying to work together with that DRS, as someone has mentioned in the chat there with a very keen eye. They are working well together, trying to use the DRS to keep Max van der Geest at bay, but currently nothing is going to keep this man at bay. He's gained 2 seconds in a single lap time at a lap that's about 1 minute and 18 seconds. So that is an absolute madness from Max van der Geest, and there's every chance now, at least from what we've seen from this current pace, that he could win this Grand Prix. So coming into the stadium section now, he's getting closer and closer to that DRS. He's got a bit more pushing to do before he does get into that DRS, and Max van der Geest, he's a proven race winner in this division, getting P1 in round 7 at Imola, and then he also got a podium the race before that in Japan. So he's definitely comfortable racing in a top position, and for a top position, as Keke and Mal switching positions once again. That's lost Max van der Geest a little bit of time down that straight. Noel overtaking Johan, getting that job done, as Will Murdoch is up into B7. He's overtaken Dark, and Dark has actually lost the position to Lewis, so losing 2 positions there, which is not ideal from the ET8 man. Maybe lacking in a little bit of pace. Will Murdoch is going for the move into turn number 4 on the likes of OPO, and he's got that move done around the outside. That's lovely to see from our little PSGL PSF2 legend here, as he's up into P6 and a net P5. So he's doing very, very well in this race, especially since, where did he qualify? Well, we can find out right now. He qualified in P18, which is the 9th row of the field. So he is doing amazingly so far. So is Enela, Keke and Mal. Keke started in P14 and Mal started in, that would be, if my maths can serve me, P12 in this race. So yeah, those guys have done a fantastic job so far. OPO, and also one man who started in the bottom 5, starting in P17, he's now P10. So a lot of these guys have moved from the back of the field to the front, and Mal overtaking Keke, but that is no longer going to save them in this race, because Max van der Geest is into the DRS of Keke ahead of him. Will Murdoch making the move for P5 along with OPO, and going side by side with Lewis through the first turn. Lewis getting ahead of OPO, and then ETA Dark, he might have wing damage. I obviously went with this offboard cam to look if he has any visible damage. The answer would be no, but he's lacking pace severely. 1.8 seconds now is the difference between himself and that DRS train ahead of him. Even though he was battling with those guys, he's losing a lot of pace, and you can see here through turn number 6, does he have any major understeer? Not really. He looked quite comfortable through that turn. He's actually gained a slight bit of time out to the guys ahead, but obviously something is happening. He's on 11 lap old medium compounded tires, and that could definitely be something worth noting. We've just seen Max van der Geest make the move. We're also seeing P.I. Noel being overtaken by Lewis into turn number 12. He's going to go for the switchback though around the outside at turn number 13, but no, he goes for another switchback, but that's not going to work, so he's just going to slot in to the racing line behind Lewis. But let's look. OP Max van der Geest, can he make the move on Mal here? 2.3 seconds between Mal and Covers, and now it's 2.2 seconds between OP Covers and Max van der Geest, as it was at the beginning of the Grand Prix. The only difference is Max van der Geest is on the mediums, the better tires. He's on the fresher tires by about 6 laps, and he's 1.5 seconds behind. So OP Covers was looking very good for a race win. Now the favourite is Max van der Geest to get his 2nd win this season in the PSGL PlayStation F2 division. He is already into the DRS of OP Covers, so flying as always. Will Murdoch now 4.7 seconds away from Keke and Mal. ET8 Dark definitely, you can see it must be the tire. We're 12 laps done on these mediums, and he's falling down the order like a stone in water into P11, currently behind Jesus Zane and Diogo Silva. OP Johan managing to hang on to his tires a lot better than ET8 Dark. He's in P8. He has got 3 seconds of time penalties, which would drop him actually behind ET8 Dark, but he has definitely got a lot more grip than the ET8 driver. You can see quite wide though into turn number 13. That will cost him not only time, maybe a track limits violation as well, and he's also just lost the DRS to PR Noel because of that. But we've just seen Max van der Geest make the move for the lead of the Grand Prix after boxing 8 laps to go, after being roughly 10 or 12 seconds behind our race leader. All he needed was 8 laps, and now he is leading this Grand Prix, and he's probably going to drive off into the Mexican sunset, because OP Gubbers is going to have a difficult time of keeping up with this man. ETA Dirk I should say, getting a 3-second time penalty. Currently down in P18, so that won't be affecting him in this race. But let's see here, what are the main battles on track? We have Mal versus Keke, those guys battling each other for a P3 and a podium in this race. We then also have Lewis, Will Murdoch and Noel all battling behind, although at the end of the day Will Murdoch is the only one without a 3-second time penalty, so he's currently coming out on top in that battle. These guys now with the fresher tyres are trying to work together to catch up to both Keke and Mal and get themselves involved in that battle for a podium in this race. We have Johan, who's lost a lot of time to Noel ahead after the mistakes he's been making. He's obviously struggling majorly with the tyre wear, and now he's got pressure from Diogo Silva Zane and ETA Dark, who's able to keep up with the back of these two and hold into that DRS. And then those are the points paying positions. Outside of the points though, we have Baki, which is definitely a surprise. We have Spicer, Skyline, Tails, definitely a bit further down than he'd want to be. We have Nuth. Urpek, our championship leader, will not be scoring any points today, as Nuth actually letting him through. Nuth on 27 lap old hard compound tyres. You really don't see that too often, and he's still going strong on them. We'll see if he goes to the end of the race on these or not. And then we have ETA Dirk, and obviously Rayman had disconnected a bit earlier on. But Max van der Geest is broken out of the DRS of covers behind. Now we have Mal and Keke into the DRS of the hard runner, and those two will be challenging covers for a P2 position in this race. Will Murdoch getting back up into P5, and he's pushing on in the clean air to try and catch up to Keke and Mal. And we'll see what his progress is like. He's already brought that gap down from 4 seconds to 3.6 now, which is good to see. He's definitely got some decent pace at this stage, I should say. But we'll see. And yeah, the tyre wear is definitely something to talk about. It was Skyline has just got a 3-second time penalty. As yeah, Mal and Keke, they might have slightly faster tyres now, as we're seeing, because Mal overtakes covers and so does Keke into turn number 1, or he's going to try to, going side by side on that inside line, but he has not broken late enough to get ahead of the outplayed racing driver. So he's going to hold that P4 position for now, or is he? Because Covers does not have the DRS. Covers trying to defend that inside line, almost blocking Keke there. Keke goes to the inside at turn number 4, and that is job done. But for how long? Because Covers is on the hards, and obviously these hards are a lot more durable. So in the final 3 or 4 laps of the race, Covers is going to be significantly faster than these two medium runners. So there's every chance that he could still get P2 in this race. He's just got to play his cards properly to make sure that he can get this done and get himself into P2, especially since Mal is pushing hard and trying to get into the DRS of Max van der Geest to give himself a sort of line of defense to keep Enela Keke at bay. Currently has not been able to do that, and OP Max van der Geest still 1.2 seconds ahead of these guys. Will Murdoch has been overtaken by Lewis once again. These guys switching back and forth to work their way towards P4, and they've actually brought that gap down by a second in 1 lap, which is very, very good progress, especially since there's only 5 laps to go, which is not very long at all. So everyone needs to be getting a move on to get into the highest possible position that they can get themselves into. Currently for Lewis and Noel, this is the highest position they can get themselves into. They're over 3 seconds away from Diogo Silva, so their time penalties aren't currently doing anything. So it is going to be an on-track battle versus Lewis versus Noel, I should say, for P6 in the race. We're seeing Johan battling with Shizou Zane. He's got that inside into turn number 4. Shizou Zane trying to get a better exit, especially through this 5th turn. But at the end of the day, the circuit just a little bit too tight at this section to get a better exit and go for a switchback. So he is going to have to hold that P10 for now, but he's got 6-lap pressure tyres, so hopefully he can get himself back ahead. And also Johan on 3 seconds of time penalty, so Shizou Zane definitely in a much better position than both Johan and Dark, who are on more worn tyres. In fact, Shazane, you can see getting close into that 12th turn of the circuit, but we redirect our focus to the top 4 because Max van der Geest has allowed Mal to get into that DRS. So Mal has DRS and he has defense against Keke and Covers. Covers still hanging on to the DRS of Keke. So all of these guys now have DRS, and they are all going to be battling each other for a race win. Currently, Max van der Geest has the best tyres, then Covers, then Keke and Mal on the same tyres. So yeah, definitely an interesting order of how the tyre hierarchy is currently looking in the top 4. As Max goes a bit deep there into turn number 4, allowing Mal to get a little bit closer through the middle sector as OP Noose gets another 3-second time penalty, but he's down in P18, so that won't be affect him in this Grand Prix. But now Will Murdoch, he's also going to try to get himself into that DRS to the top 4 by the end of the Grand Prix, because if he can, I'm sure we are going to see a lot of hard racing between the top 5, because all of these guys have 0 seconds of time penalties. They're all in contention for a race win, and they all want a race win very, very badly. Obviously, Max van der Geest going for a second, and Keke going for his 3rd, and everyone else going for their very first in this season of PSGL PlayStation F2. So lap 33 of 36, and not too many laps to go, 4 total, including this one, before the end of the Grand Prix. So not a lot of space for error between these guys, and in fact Mal has just made the move on Max van der Geest into the first turn. So Mal is leading this Grand Prix on 19 lap all medium compound tyres. He's done fantastic to get into the position that he's currently in, really using that VSC to his advantage earlier on. Keke also keeping up with these guys. Covers is definitely struggling on these hards, even though you'd think the hards are slowly getting faster and faster. And now that Mal on the 19 old mediums is leading, Covers should have a much easier time of keeping up with these guys. And you can see the effects of that straight away within 0.4 of a second of Keke ahead now. So all these guys very closely compacted together, and that means we should have some close racing as well for these final few laps. So we've seen the first move so far, and that's a Mal overtaking Max van der Geest. Lewis is now 1.5 seconds away from these guys, and if Will Murdoch overtakes him down the pit straight, that will put him into the DRS, which means he will be battling with these guys for the final 2 laps. So out of turn number 17 now, we have OP Covers on the hards trying to keep up with these guys. Max van der Geest with the best tyres, hanging into the DRS of Mal. He's not looking to go for a move, not using any battery. He pulls out of the slipstream slightly, but he's going to lift off at the throttle, and thankfully Keke is not close enough to take advantage of that, so he's played that quite well to just make sure that he's in the best position possible, because you need DRS down that straight if you want to be in a competitive position. So he's holding P2, and obviously thinking ahead, thinking tactically rather than just thinking about who he can overtake as quickly as possible. Will Murdoch 1.2 seconds separate himself and Covers. He is now going to get into that DRS for the penultimate lap of the race. So it's a top 5 shootout for the race win. All these guys on varying tyres. We have old mediums, old hards, and then we have fresher mediums for both Max van der Geest and Will Murdoch. I obviously say fresher because these mediums are not fresh at all. They are on their last legs, as they definitely don't have as much grip as they used to. So through the stadium section for the 34th time in this Grand Prix, and now we are about to see some intense battling and an intense race for the race win. OP Max van der Geest coming down this pit straight, not using any battery. He's got to be wary of the threat of Keke behind. We see Will Murdoch. He's going to make a move for P4 in this race. Max van der Geest makes a move for the lead of the Grand Prix. Can Will Murdoch complete this move? Covers is not going to go down without a fight. He's got that outside line which shunts the inside for turn number 2, but Will Murdoch is getting that move done. But how long does it last? Because Covers goes for the switchback, which does not work out. Will Murdoch has gotten through into P4. Now we see Keke overtaking for a P2 position in this Grand Prix. Covers still trying to apply pressure to the lack of Will Murdoch. It's not worked out so far though. So now, your order, Max van der Geest leads with Keke in P2. He can still be in contention for the championship if he wins this Grand Prix, but he has to win. OP covers, has just gotten a 3-second time penalty. That has taken him out of contention with the likes of the top 4, and now into the grips of both Lewis and Pierre Nol, challenging for that top 5 position. So it is now just the top 4 trying to battle for the race win. Will Murdoch fantastically getting himself up into this great position. But now, Max van der Geest, he's used quite a bit of his battery to try and extend the gap to Keke behind. He's made that gap up to 9/10 of a second, which is quite impressive. Keke low on the ERS for the final lap of the Grand Prix. Max van der Geest is on 0% ERS, so he's used everything to try and defend down this straight, and it's worked out. So far, coming into turn number 1, still the gap is half a second. Mal is also trying to keep up with Enelak Keke. Will Murdoch trying to find a way into the podium positions onto this DRS straight now. Max van der Geest is well ahead of Enelak Keke. Keke is going to have to find something here in these final 2 sectors if he wants to get his 3rd race win of the season, and if he wants to stay in contention for the PSGL PlayStation F2 Championship. Out of this turn number 6 now, Max van der Geest is still ahead of Keke, and Keke is not gaining time. His tyres just simply have not got the grip. And speaking of having no grip, Mal is struggling compared to Will Murdoch, who's getting closer and closer, coming down into turn number 12 now. Will Murdoch is not close enough to make a move. Skyline's actually been disqualified for failing to use the tyres. I don't know how that's happened. But he is disqualified for whatever reason. He was outside the points anyway. But now, through the final turns, Will Murdoch is not going to make the move. But OP Max van der Geest is going to come across the line to win the Mexican Grand Prix after a stunning performance is the only word I can use for that. That fantastic overcut strategy, some amazing pace, some racecraft awareness, throw it all into this racing. You get a race winner like Max van der Geest, who goes to his 2nd race win of the season. Keke finishes P2 and on the podium. Mal as well, also on the podium. Will Murdoch very, very close, but at the end of the day, he just could not get into those top 3 positions. So Mal and Keke, who boxed under the VSC, fantastic strategy from those two. They get themselves a podium each. Great, great job. But at the end of the day, the main story here in Mexico, Enelak Urbeck, after finishing P15 in the Grand Prix, it doesn't matter because Enelak Keke has just been crowned the PSGL PlayStation F2 Champion of the World. Urbeck has done it. He has put on one of the most amazing seasons ever in the PSF2 division. Definitely comparable to the likes of Jerry Van Bussel, who was here with us last season, currently in PSF1, so we might see Enelak Urbeck move up to PSF1 next season on the new, or not the new game, sorry, getting ahead of myself quite slightly there. We're only in September, but yeah, he definitely will be up into PSF1 next season, hopefully at least, but he is the PSGL PlayStation F2 champion heading into the final 2 rounds of the season. So a fantastic job from himself for securing that championship. And yeah, just a great season all around. 3 race wins, 6 or 8, 7, getting my numbers wrong. 7 podiums out of 10 races, and only 9 of those races he's actually raced in. So fantastic from Enelak Urbeck, definitely doing Enelak proud. I mean, this has got to be one of their best seasons in PSGL, I believe. I don't think they've had a PSF1 driver in this league, at least. So I think Enelak have got the best finish they've ever got in PSGL. But let's focus on this Mexican finish here. We have Max van der Geest winning the Grand Prix from P2. Great display from him with Keke in P2. Mal on the podium. We then have Will and Covers in the top 5. Lewis and Null finishing in those top 7 positions. Diogo Silva managing to get some points along with Shizu Zane and Dark. But then the drivers who did not get points would be Johan, Baki, Spicer, Tails, our champion Urbeck, ETA Dirk, Nuth, and then Rayman, Nicolo, Ben Skyline all retiring from the session, with Rayman obviously being hit with a disconnect. So that is the end of the Mexican Grand Prix. Still 2 rounds to go. I don't believe the 2 rounds have actually been announced, so we don't know what they are yet. Sure, we will find out in due time. But that is the end of the Grand Prix and the end of the championship race as well. Enel Erpek has won the championship, and a fantastic job from him. He's just done such a great job all season, getting so many race wins, being hyper consistent in this division. And if he scores points next race, he'll have over 100 points in a championship, in a 12-round championship, which is quite impressive to say the least. So great job from him. Also, congratulations to our race leader. If I had to give a driver of the day, it's quite a difficult decision, you'd have to say. You have the likes of Will Murdoch coming from the back of the field to the front on a regular strategy. He did not box under the VSC. Then you also have Max van der Geest, who had the best pace in the field by far. And then you also have Mal and Keke, who took advantage of that VSC. But if I had to give one driver of the day, I'm going to have to give it to Will Murdoch. He started in the bottom 5. He was on the exact same strategy as Max van der Geest. We did not gain any time under VSC. In fact, he lost time to Mal and Keke. But he just made so many overtakes, had fantastic pace, just gained and gained and gained. And at the end of the day, that has awarded him a P4 position and only about a second and a half away from our race leader. So if it wasn't Will Murdoch, I would have given it to Max van der Geest, but Will Murdoch is going to get my drive of the day. So congratulations to our race winner Max van der Geest and both of the other podium runners of Mal and Keke. And also, massive congratulations to Erpek, who might see himself moving up to the top division of PlayStation here in PSGL next season. But I hope you all enjoyed this Mexican Grand Prix. It was definitely an interesting one. We had plenty of overtaking, as we usually do here in PSGL F2. And we obviously had an exciting qualifying session with a surprise pole runner who sadly could not convert that into a podium, but still had a good race nonetheless, finishing in a top 5 position. But that is going to be all from me. I've been your race commentator, More Games. Hope you all enjoyed this Mexican Grand Prix. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
He's got the inside, all here is through on the left hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning